Okay, I am hydrated. I'm ready to go. Let's do this. Hi, this is Jimmy. I am picking up today where I left off on the last video, where I thought it was going to be way too long, going over all of the returning Pokemon from the Teal Mask DLC that I didn't think were going to be very good. So today, we're going to go ahead and go over all of the Pokemon that I think are going to be really good coming in the DLC. The DLC actually drops later tonight at the time of recording this. We'll see if I get this video out before then or not, but we'll see. It's going to be very different opinions this time around compared to the last ones. The last Pokemon that we went over weren't going to be, at least in my opinion, I don't think are going to be super impactful in the upcoming metagame. However, there is a mistake on this list. I'll let you predict which one it's going to be that I think I was actually pretty wrong about. Moving on, though, let's just move forward with this video. I think going forward with these Pokemon, it's not going to be a lot of, oh, this Pokemon is good because it can do this niche thing, or it can provide a new tool. I think these are just going to be inherently better than some already existing options that we're stuck with right now. But I think a lot of these Pokemon that are going to be good are also just going to be replacement tools for existing cores. So for example, we'll have some Trick Room replacements, we'll have some weather replacements. That's going to be the first ones we're talking about. And then we're going to have some unique alternatives, basically. But all of these Pokemon on this list I think are going to definitely find some use within the current metagame. I have them kind of grouped up too, so that way it's easier to transition between the groups of them. So up first, we're gonna have the weather trio here. We're gonna have Politoed, Ninetales, and Ninetales the Alola form. Each one of these Pokemon is going to be good in the upcoming metagame, specifically for the fact that they're different weather setters. Currently, we only have, for Drizzle, we only have Pelipper. For Drought, we only have Torkoal. And for Snow, we're stuck with Abomasnow. Having different options into the current metagame is going to be really, really helpful. Politoed over Pelipper is good because a mono water type instead of a water and flying type. So Iron Hands can't just delete this thing. You can spec this guy to live a Wild Charge pretty easily. You can get him to live Moonblast, or probably even like Thunderbolt from Zapdos if you really wanted to. He also gets some really good tools in Icy Wind, Perish Song, Helping Hand, which I guess Pelipper does get that too. It also gets Hypnosis. All the movesets may not be entirely accurate based on info that I found, but I'm pretty sure Politoed gets Hypnosis, and if not, it definitely gets Sing, which is a worse Hypnosis. But just having a rain setter that can do all of these kind of shenanigans are really good. I know it also gets Encore. It gets a lot of different options for its moveset. Let's go ahead and just take a look at what was popping up for Gen 8. Let's just go see this funny little frog boy. Let's see. Yeah, so it does get Hypnosis. It gets Mudshot, which is interesting. I believe Mudshot lowers your speed also. Haze to... Oh, that's another Dondozo answer right there. Actually, it gets Haze. That's good to know. Okay, it does get Encore. If Scald comes back, Politoed having Scald is going to be a problem. Basically, it's just a better rain setter, and that's what's going to make this guy really, really strong going forward. Moving on to the other one, we have Ninetales. We have, it's, again, similar option to Politoed. It's just going to be a better alternative to Torkoal, as long as you're not trying to run a Sun Trick Room team. I think this Ninetales is probably going to be the least viable out of these three Pokemon right here, just because Torkoal on Sun teams with Trick Room is such a common thing, and there's no way a Ninetales is ever outspeeding a Torkoal in Trick Room. However, if you want to go with a faster Sun mode, having an Alolan or Cantonian Ninetales, Speed Nature, like look how fast this thing is, right? 167, that's the same as Chi-Yu, right? So you can bring this out with Chi-Yu, Helping Hand. You could Solar Beam into opposing resist targets, like opposing water types. It has Heat Wave, Protect. I believe this thing also gets Hypnosis. I know Ninetales gets some unique move options also. Disable is surprisingly interesting. Let's see, Baby Doll Eyes. Baby Doll Eyes could actually be pretty good too. Having a priority move to reduce attack stats is always nice. Hex, Howl, Hypnosis. Yep, there we go. Gets Energy Ball. Will-O-Wisp. That's the move I was thinking of. Having a fast Will-O-Wisp user in the sun is always good. But yeah, I think Ninetales is going to be good. I think, again, Torkoal is going to be better for the slow, like the Trick Room variants, but if you want a non-Trick Room Sunsetter, here you go. Like, it can be fast, it can hit hard. I know this thing gets Nasty Plot, too. If you wanted to make it more offensive, even if you want to make it more support-oriented, you can. It seems pretty versatile. It's going to depend on the team that you pair it with, but I think overall it's going to be pretty good. Alolan Ninetales. Sound the alarms. This thing is going to be a problem. Snow Warning on this thing with Aurora Veil is going to be disgusting with the new snow mechanics. Like, just 121 base special defense. 95 isn't great, but then you give it the snow bonus and it's surviving through everything. Or it's taking every physical hit, barring a heavy slam or a bullet punch from a Scizor, right? I think this thing is going to be an absolute menace. Aurora Veil, Blizzard, Dazzling Lane, Protect, all of these are going to be pretty standard. This is going to be the new Snow Setter for sure, and I think this is probably the biggest weather upgrade out of the three, where you're not relying on a Bomb of Snow that's 4 times weak to Chi-Yu or Heatran, and also can't touch Chi-Yu or Heatran. Yeah, I think this thing is going to be really good. It obviously doesn't have the grass immunity and spore immunity like a Bomb of Snow does, but I think just having this base typing is going to be phenomenal. It just gets so many good moves. I don't even have to go look at them. Alolan Ninetales is going to be everywhere. Moving on to the next cluster. That's more of a duo. Talked about it last video. Dusclops is going to be a bit of a menace, I think. It's not going to be as good of a Trick Room user with something like Ursaluna that like Cresselia would. But this thing is much, much slower than Cresselia and Ursaluna. Like, look at this base speed. If you have a 0 IV and negative speed nature, this thing hits 27. That's slower than Torkoal, right? That's really good. And again, going back to what I said about the PP issue before, having pressure is pretty good. Just being able to neutralize targets by being on the field long enough. Like, if you get into some kind of stall war with this guy, next thing you know, your opponents don't have the moves that they need to click. Eviolite just goes crazy. Like, look at these base defenses, right? Multiply each of those by 1.5, 147 HP. This thing doesn't go down, no matter what. A Wicked Blow from a Terra Dark, the Black Glasses Urshifu doesn't KO this thing. It's a problem. It gets Will-O-Wisp, it gets Nightshade. This thing is basically just here to have a huge support move pool. I remember back in Gen 8 VGC, a lot of people weren't even running offensive moves sometimes. Like, the only offense move you run on this thing is Nightshade, since its attack stats are so bad. And just getting a guaranteed 50 damage is pretty much always going to be better than a coverage move. But you can run like Trick Room, Will-O-Wisp, Pain Split, and Disable. Yeah, Disable is right there. Like, you have a lot of good options to just really disrupt your opponent. I think that about sums up Dusclops, but it's going to be problematic. I think the only thing holding it back from being a top tier mon is going to be the existence of Cresselia and Farigiraf, whereas those are both really good Trick Room setters. However, they both have really good abilities, and the fact that one pairs really well with something like Earthquake Spam from Ursaluna due to Levitate, and then the other one blocks all priority moves. Dusclops does not have that, but if you can find a spot for it on your team and go for a more stall-oriented style, I think Dusclops is going to be your best bet just because of pressure at this point. A lot of moves that run out of PP very quickly at this point. So being able to just, if you exist on the field for 4 turns, Chien-Pao doesn't have Sucker Punch anymore. Urshifu doesn't have Surging Strikes. Like, it's just, it can just drain your opponent's offensive resources, and I think that's something to heavily consider when looking at this guy. Up next is Clefairy. Clefable, not going to be super good. This is why it's next to Dusclops. Their parents are not going to be very good. However, Clefairy gets Friend Guard. So the reason why you run Mousehold is because you have Follow Me and Encore. Clefairy has Follow Me and Encore with Friend Guard. It's a Fairy type. It has Heal Pulse as an option. It gets Encore, Helping Hand, Follow Me. It gets Ally Switch. That's terrible. I hate to see it. There's not too much to say about Clefairy. It's a good support mon. It has Friend Guard. It's got Eviolite. It's going to be super bulky. That's really all there is to this thing at this point. If you Terra Grass on it, you can't be put to sleep or anything. It's going to be great. All right, up next, we're going to talk about some more offensive sets, I think. Or I guess offense or defense. I have a couple of these guys listed because I think there's a couple sets. But we're going to talk about Gliscor first, which is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. Toxic Orb, Poison Heal, fantastic. Ground Flying is great because it nullifies your electric weakness. It's got Quick Guard as an option. It has Feint. It has Fling, Earthquake, Protect, Toxic. It gets Knockoff. It gets so many different tools. I don't know if it gets Knockoff in Gen 8 or in Gen 9. We'll see. But this thing can just be an absolute nightmare to deal with in terms of defensive capabilities. This thing's stats go crazy, right? The only thing stopping this thing from being an absolute terror before was the fact that it was 4 times weak to ice, but now you can Terra Water, and Mono Water is a really good defensive typing. I think this guy is just going to sit on the field for hours at a time. I would bet money that this thing takes 2 Wild Charges after 1 Protect and Poison Heal recovery. I'm assuming this thing is just not going to go down at all. And that's just the defensive set. Can also go for a more offensive take with like Swords Dance, Earthquake, Protect. I have Baton Pass on here just to show that you can run Baton Pass. It gets Knockoff, U-Turn. It gets X Scissor. You have a lot of like in Swords Dance, Earthquake with and Terra Blast. What am I saying? If you want to make this thing like a more defensive Landorus, right? Boom. It's Landorus without it doesn't have Intimidate or the offensive pressure, so it's probably worse, but it's also going to be a lot tankier than Landorus. Especially if you go Toxic Orb and Poison Heal, right? Like, if you run this combo here, Swords Dance, take a little bit of damage, Protect, heal up. Earthquake, take a little bit of damage, Protect, heal up. Like, this thing is going to be a nightmare to deal with, honestly. And I'm so ready for it. I'm so excited. He's going to be great. It does get Sand Veil too, so keep that in mind. That could be a problem if Tyranitar starts popping up. Slap this guy on a Tyranitar team, and now he's just 25% harder to kill because he's just not going to go down 25% of the time. Next is the thing I'm probably most excited for, despite the fact that I was just talking about one of my favorite Pokemon. Mamoswine, when you pair it with something like Alolan Ninetales with Aurora Veil, look at this dude's stats. Like, they're nothing crazy, but if you want to go Assault Vest and Thick Fat to just tank fire and ice type moves, right? Like, you're still neutral to ice and you're weak to fire. If you have an Assault Vest on this guy and you're behind Aurora Veil, Chi-Yu Overheat with Specs doesn't even do 2/3 of your health, right? And Earthquake with hardly any attack investment KOs the Chi-Yu every time. So if you slap this guy in the snow pre-Terra, so he has the defense boost from the snow, and he's got an Assault Vest, and he has Aurora Veil, this guy's stats are basically doubled on the defensive end, right? So 234 defense, 212 special defense, right? That's gonna go crazy. Like, I just don't know how you're gonna get rid of this guy if you run something like that. Obviously, like, Urshifu is a problem, but you can just run Terra Grass and Terra Blast for that if you want to. You can run Terra Water. He's just going to have a lot of good options. I think Mamoswine is going to be the premier snow abuser at this point, specifically because of just the options that you have now with Alolan Ninetales and his Thick Fat ability, right? Articuno is good because it has Snow Cloak and it can potentially dodge a lot of attacks, and it has it has a really good special defense stat. But Mamoswine hits really hard, right? Icicle Crash, Earthquake. It gets Swords Dance, it gets Curse, which I'll talk about in a second. You know what? No, I'll just do that now. There's the Assault Vest variant, and then there is something I'm a bit more excited for. Curse Mamoswine with Leftovers and Snow Cloak. So same concept as before, just without the Assault Vest boost. Get him into a snow situation, start cursing, Leftovers for heal and recovery, right? Protect, Icicle Crash, Earthquake, Terra Water for if Urshifu comes around and threatens you. But if you get enough curses up, this attack stat starts just getting way too out of control. And if you get one curse up and you're in the snow, even if they do hit you through Snow Cloak and it's a physical attack, you're not taking any damage, right? Like, that's just, it's going to be a menace, I think. I think this is going to be a really, really fun option. Oh, yeah, if you run Curse, it reduces your speed. Bring out something like Cresselia next to this guy after you get a couple curses up. Set up Trick Room, and now you have Lunar Blessing. You can switch back into like Alola Ninetales to set the snow up again, switch back into Cresselia. You're immune to Earthquake. I think this guy's going to go crazy, honestly. I think Mamoswine is just going to become an absolute bulwark, and you just aren't going to be able to bust through it. I'm very excited. Moving on to this chick. Milotic. I put it in the good category because I feel like it makes sense. It's a bulky water type that gets some decent supportive options. It has competitive, and there's a lot of Landorus coming around, so if you wanted to... It's a lot of Landorus, Arcanine, stuff like that. If you run competitive on this thing, you can punish Intimidate spam team. Just getting Ice Beams, Scalds, Muddy Water. Oh yeah, by the way, Milotic, if anyone's getting Scald, it's pretty much confirmed that it's going to be Milotic this game. Be ready for that. Also, if it's in a closed team sheet environment, you don't want to burn it or put it to sleep or toxic or paralyze or anything, because then it just gets a defense boost, and that's going to be a problem. And it gets Cute Charm too, so even in closed team sheet environment, you're not going to want to use Urshifu on it, because then it could just get infatuated, and that would suck. I don't know how great it's going to be for VGC, honestly. I think its best set is going to be competitive with Scald. I think it gets Coil too. So I think if you did something like Scald, Coil, Ice Beam, Protect, and Leftovers, I think that's your best bet. It seems like it would be a good recipient of just like a fairy defensive type. Yeah, I think it's going to be good. I don't have any sets in mind personally. Maybe if you're going to run Coil, you slap Blizzard on here to offset the accuracy boost with Coil. But I think it's just going to be a defensive water type, and I think that's going to be about it. Yeah, that covers the majority of them. Basically, we have your Weather Cores, these guys with the Eviolite. Kind of interesting takes here, potentially. Let's move on to this guy. Vikavolt. Bug Electric type with Levitate. So can't be hit by ground type moves. Really handy, right? If you want to just go Terra Electric and boost its stats, you can. Speaking of its stats, 145 special attack is insane. You slap a Choice Specs on this thing, and it's hitting super hard, right? Especially if you go Terra Electric. Thunderbolt, any neutral target is pretty much going to fall over in front of this guy. That's just how it is. It's really slow Pokemon, but I think that works in this format, given that it's a 43 speed. If you compare that to Ursaluna, Ursaluna is 50. This thing is faster than Ursaluna, and the reason why I have Terra Ghost on here right now is because if you're running Terra Ghost, Ursaluna can't touch you. Period. It doesn't work. Ursaluna's run, maybe they run Shadow Claw, but that's very few and far between. Most Ursaluna run Swords Dance, Facade, Earthquake, and Protect. He literally can't touch this thing. All you do at that point is just start clicking Bug Buzz or Thunderbolts onto the partner Pokemon, right? And just systematically delete its partners with this insane special attack stat, and then deal with it later. That's all you do, right? I think having something that can just delete Trick Room abuse, like this is basically an anti-Trick Room mon, is what it is. It's slower than every other offensive Trick Room mon outside of Torkoal, and with the Choice Specs, Bug Buzz KOs offensive Armor Rouge every time before they go Terra Grass. I think this is one of those Pokemon where it's either going to go way too hard, or it's just going to get absolutely zero value because its defensive stats are awful. But I'm very excited for it. That's all I have to say about it. Mandibuzz. It's a dark flying type, and I talked about it in my last video. I kind of overlooked something. I forgot that it had Overcoat, which is on me. That's stupid of me. Having a flying type that is this bulky and is immune to stuff like Rage Powder and Spore, right? Like, Weirdly enough, this is a really good anti-trick room option with taunt. Even if they lead like Amoonguss and Cresselia, if you run Terra Ghost on this thing, this set right here pretty much guarantees that Trick Room won't go up in front of a Cresselia with an Iron Hands or a Amoonguss out next to it, right? You can ignore the Rage Powder, you can ignore Fake Out, taunt the Trick Room. That's it. It's not super offensive is its problem. It gets taunt, Tailwind, Foul Play. It's a really good supportive option, but its attack stats are really bad. Like 65 base attack. It's got insane bulk. I will say I've ran some calcs on this guy too. Specs Moonblast has a chance to KO if you're running max HP and 60 SPDEF. So if you really wanted to make this thing just not fear Flutter Mane at all, you can very easily do that. The issue is it doesn't exert a lot of pressure. I think this is a really good defensive tool, but I don't think it's going to be super great. But I think it'll have a niche role on some teams. I think having a bulky Tailwind user like this that can't be put to sleep is going to be great. Yeah, I think it could definitely have some kind of role, but I'm not too sure. Lastly, we have to talk about this guy. And I know what you're thinking. Dragon fighting type, Flutter Mane is everywhere. Why would you ever want to run this? Short answer, it's actually surprisingly bulky. When you look at its stats, 75 HP isn't a lot, but 125 defense is pretty good. 105 special defense is pretty good. Like, it's got really good stats across the board. And that's kind of what makes this Pokemon bad, is it's not optimized in any way. But if you give this thing Terra Poison, or Terra Steel, or Terra Fairy, this thing becomes pretty hard to take down. And again, that's not including the fact that Dragon resists a lot of good types too. I think Terra is definitely going to be a huge improvement. Just having the option to just nullify your weaknesses on such a volatile Pokemon is going to be great. I think there's a couple options you can run for it. I think Citrus Berry and Clangorous Soul, for those of you who don't know. I'll just go ahead and pull it up real quick. Okay, so Clangorous Soul raises all the user's stats but loses HP. It's going to be a 1/3 of your HP whenever you use this move, but you're getting an Omni Boost, which is fantastic, right? So boosting all of these stats up by 1.5 is going to be phenomenal. So I think if you wanted to do something like Clangorous Soul with Citrus Berry and like a defensive Terra type, Drain Punch, Poison Jab, Iron Head, it gets Heavy Slam. All of these are going to be some great options for it. I will say also that the thing that's going to make this thing really good on like the ladder on closed team sheets is the fact that it can also run a special attacking set, because its special attack is not very far off of its regular attack. If you were to go a similar set, so you run Citrus Berry, so you get Clangorous Soul, boost all your stats, this thing can go Terra Normal Boom Burst, which is a lot, right? It also gets Flash Cannon, which is a good answer into fairy types, and Clanging Scales. Clanging Scales deals damage but lowers user's defense by 1 stage after attacking. So it's literally just a special dragon type attack that makes you a little bit weaker. But if you were to use Clangorous Soul and then use Clanging Scales, you're just neutralizing your boosts. That's all you're doing, right? And it's 110 base power coming off of stab and +1 special attack. That's really good. I think the offensive setup version of this Como-O is going to be a real problem for a lot of people, honestly. Just the surprise factor on ladder is going to be pretty intense. There's another set, Assault Vest, I think you could run too, right? Kind of think about how Baxcalibur was working in the past regulations. I think this thing could be pretty good for that. It's got Heavy Slam, Drain Punch, Poison Jab, Earthquake, decent bulk, right? Like, it's physically bulky, resists a lot of common attackers. I think it's just going to be... I think this would kind of just be like a worse Iron Hands, if I'm being honest. But at the same time, Iron Hands doesn't have that base defensive typing of Dragon that would be really good. So I think it's all about how you use it. I think this thing is going to be a very, like, versatile option for kind of whatever you need. If he's got a special attacking set, a physical attacking set, and he's got a Assault Vest set. I think they could all be pretty solid. Not too much else to say about it. And finally, this is my biggest hot take on this list for sure. Shiftry. The only reason why it's here: Chlorophyll, Terra Fire, Worry Seed. I think that's the only reason why this thing is here. This thing has an awful typing of Grass Dark, right? One U-turn, you're cooked. If you get hit with a fairy type move, you're cooked. Fighting type, you're cooked. I think Fire is a great defensive typing for this thing. You could also run Terra Fairy, but I think if you run, I think you could run Shift Tree on a Sun team with really fast Fake Out. You have Worry Seed, which I'll talk about more in a minute. Leaf Storm and Terra Blast can go kind of crazy if you're out in the sun, right? Like you can either delete water types, grass types, steel types. Any of those can be pretty good. He's got pretty decent special defense. And Terra Fire, Terra Blast in the sun, it's going to hurt pretty hard. The thing that I think is going to make him, though, is Worry Seed. Worry Seed is a move that changes the... if you target down a Pokemon, that Pokemon's ability then becomes Insomnia, which means that against stuff like Urshifu, you can remove its ability to hit through Protect. Really solid. Into Ursaluna Cresselia teams, you could turn 1 Worry Seed the Cresselia, so that way it can't be hit by, or it can be hit by Earthquake, since it loses its Levitate ability. You could also potentially Worry Seed the Guts ability off of Ursaluna, which would be really good. I don't know how this works with stuff like Flutter Mane, right? Where if you get like a booster energy boost on with your ability before you get your ability removed. I don't know how that works, but there are a lot of Pokemon that rely on their abilities to be really good. You can also use Worry Seed defensively too, by the way. If you Worry Seed something like your own Urshifu, all of a sudden you can't be put to sleep by like an Amoonguss, or if you Worry Seed your Iron Hands, right? You can't be put to sleep. That's a really good option considering how fast this Pokemon is. I think it's just going to depend on the moveset that this thing gets and the team that it's on, but I think it could be a weird tech on a Sun team, especially considering it's a grass type that goes on the Sun team that isn't just Scovillain. But yeah, I think Shift Trees is kind of like a weird take. I don't think it's going to be that good, but I think it could have a potential niche use. So yeah, I don't know. Don't hate me for this one. I think it's fine. It's probably pretty bad, but I just wanted to throw it on here as a, hey, it could be a funny option, funny little dude. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for all the Pokemon that are coming out that are gonna be good. I think Shift Tree is the only like objectively like bad take here. I think these guys are all gonna have their place in the meta for the most part. I think if I'm wrong about anything else, Dusclops, just because it's not as good a Trick Room use. It doesn't synergize very well with a lot of things like Cresselia or Farigiraf do. And then I think the only thing Clefairy has to fear in the meta right now is going to be Heavy Slam from stuff like Iron Hands. And then probably Milotic too. Milotic I don't think is going to get a lot of value unless Scald comes back, and then it's game over. But yeah, that's going to do it. Look forward to a lot of new weather setting options with these guys specifically. A couple new support options. I think this is the sleeper snow pick right here now. I think this guy's going to go crazy. And then this guy in Trick Room is an absolute nightmare. So good luck with that. But yeah, that's going to do it. Please let me know if I'm wrong or if I missed anything, because I probably did and I probably am. And yeah, I think that'll do it. I'll try and post another one of these soon. I think next time we're going to go ahead and make a video going over how I'm going to build a team around either Mamoswine or Vikavolt. But I'm going to try and do that. And then until then, y'all have a good day. Peace out.